Hi, this is Mrs. Sue, and today we are working on our notes and homework. This is the worksheet. This entire worksheet is your notes, and whatever we don't finish in the video, it's also homework. So most of us did get through the front side, so you have to finish the back, but for period 1, we didn't do any of it since I did have to leave the classroom for a little bit, so I do apologize. But for those of you who already have the first part done, then just go ahead and scroll through the rest of the video until you have questions. We were talking about simple interest, and a simple interest is basically a fixed percent of the principal. So the example that we talked about in class was that, say you borrow money from your friend and you borrow $10, okay, but your friend is going to charge you interest, and they're going to charge you $1 per day that you don't pay them back. So $1 per day for $10 is basically a 10% interest. So let's say that you borrow the money for a week and you haven't paid them back yet. So after 1 week, you would owe them $1 per day, so you'd owe them an extra $7 on top of the $10 you borrowed from them, which means you'd need to pay them back $17. Well, let's say that you don't pay them back for like a month, or what if you don't pay them back for an entire year? There are 365 days in a year, which means you need to pay them $365, plus you need to still pay them that $10 you borrowed from them. That's a lot of money, $375. Well, that's what happens when you owe the money to like a bank or a credit card. If you purchase something and you don't pay back the money, like say $10, over time the bank or the credit card actually is going to charge you interest rates for that, for borrowing money from them. And most credit card companies charge you over 20% in interest rates. That's a lot of money. That's why a lot of people go into these high credit card debts and they go bankrupt. But that's not us, right? And we're going to be fiscally responsible, financially responsible citizens when we start to earn some money. Even now, practicing that is really important. Don't just spend every dollar that your parents give you. Learn to save part of it away for emergencies and whenever you feel like doing something for yourself. Treat yourself a little bit, but you know you've got some extra. So going back to that, a simple interest, we've got a fixed percent. So there's a percentage that they take out of the principal. And what is the principal? Here it is. The principal is the original amount of money that you deposit or that you borrow. So if it's borrowing, if the situation is borrowing, then the $10 that you borrowed from your friend would be the principal. Let's say the $10 wasn't what you borrowed, but instead maybe you put money into your bank account, like maybe $100, then that's money that you deposit. So let's look at the first example. Anita. She is depositing $320 into her account. She's going to earn a 4% in simple interest that's calculated per year, and we want to know the total amount in the account after a certain time period, and that's 3 years. So the first thing it wants us to do is to write the decimal for the 4%. We all know that we need to take the decimal and move it twice to the left, which gives us 0.04. Then we're going to complete the table. The initial money that she puts into the account is going to be what? Good, 320. Then we're going to multiply that by her interest rate. Well, her interest rate is at 4% that we changed into a decimal, so that's 0.04. If we multiply that together, we are going to get $12.80. That's how much interest that she makes by putting the money there for a year. Well, we want to know how much is in her account after 3 years. So then we're going to take $12.80, that interest for 1 year, multiply it by the time, and her time here is measured in years, so we're going to do 3 years, the years, and then 12.80 times 3 is going to give us a total of $38.40. Now, is that the total amount of money that she has in her account? Well, not quite yet, because for us to find the total amount, we need to add the interest for 3 years to the initial deposit. So first, the initial deposit that she had is $320 plus the interest that she earned. So because she's saving this money, she gets money for putting it into this bank account, and she's getting $38.40 after 3 years. So that's a total of $358.40. That's her total. There's your answer. Okay? Now let's try 1A and 1B. Please pause the video here so you can try it yourself before coming back to watch the video again. So here's 1A. Now let's say that instead of leaving the money there for 3 years, it says, well, how much will she have in the account after 10 years? So now instead of 3 years, it's 10 years. Well, let me go back to this chart. This chart, there is a formula that we're going to use when finding the interest. The interest is known as the P times the R times the T. Now, what do those stand for? Well, the I stands for her interest. Okay, now the interest could be either something you borrow or what they're adding, like a tip, kind of. The P is your principal, so the initial amount that you either borrow or saving. Your R would be your rate, so in a percentage, that 4% that she got as an interest rate. And then the T would be the time, and be careful because the time is always measured in years, which means that if it's 3 years, we put 3. If it's 10 years, we put 10. But what if it's 6 months? How is 6 months related to a year? Yeah, 6 months is half of a year. So for time, we would use half, or 0.5, to multiply with rate and principal then to find her interest. So using that formula, we're going to find that her interest is going to give us, is going to be the $320 she initially deposits her principal, then the rate, which is 4%, so multiply by 0.04, then the amount of time. Now this time, rather than 3 years, it's 10 years. So we're going to multiply all that together, and that's going to give me a total of $128. Is that how much she has in her account after 10 years? That's just her interest. So then we need to take her interest and add that with her principal, which is the amount that she already had in her account. So we're going to add 128 plus the 320, and that's going to give us a total of $448 that is currently in her account after 10 years. Not bad. 4% is actually a really high percentage to put your money into a bank. Okay, now 1B. We are looking at Aaron. He's going to borrow $400 for 4 years, and the bank is going to charge him a 5% simple interest. So there's 2 questions we're answering here. First, how much interest is he charged in 4 years, and the total amount that he has to pay back. So the interest is calculated by multiplying. We have to multiply the amount that he borrows with the percentage. So that would be 400 times the percentage, which is 5%. So then I'm going to change that to a decimal, which is 0.05. And since I'm borrowing it for 4 years, I'm just going to go ahead and multiply all of this with 4 years, with the 4. So if you notice, the formula that we use is interest is equal to principal times the rate times the time. And the time is always measured in years. So we just said that earlier with the formula right up here, didn't we? So if we multiply all those together, we're going to get $80. And you do have to show your work today. The way that you're going to show your work, just like I did here, I just wrote down that I multiplied 400 with 0.05 with 4, and I got 80. Okay, and then with the 80, that's the interest, so that's the first part of my answer. And then I'm looking for the total amount. Well, he borrowed $400 plus the $80 interest. So then that's a total of $480 that he owes somebody. I don't know who, but he's taken out a loan. Then in the back, well, what if it says, what if Aaron had a 6-year loan instead? So what's going to change in our work is the amount of years. So rather than 4 years, it's going to be 6 years. So now we're going to do interest is equal to 400 times 0.05 times 6. So that's me writing my work. So I'm going to pay a total, or he's going to pay a total of $120. So that's his interest. That's the work that I show. I want to see work tomorrow. If you do not have work, I cannot give you credit at all. Alright, let's try the backside. We're going to do a couple from the backside. For number 1, P is 500, R is 0.04, and T is 1. The simple interest formula, they give it to us here. And an easy way for me to remember this formula is I think I equals party. Sometimes it seems like it goes I pretty. Almost seems like it's like I pretty. If you think you're pretty, I think you're pretty. So we use that formula. So here the interest is going to equal to P times R times T. So I'm just going to simply multiply P, which is 500, times the rate, which is 0.04, times T, which is 1. So if I multiply all that together in my calculator, I will get $20. So this is me showing my work right here. Let's try number 2. On number 2, I'm going to take I and make it equal to PRT. That's my formula. I already know that my interest is 39, so 39 is going to equal to P, which I don't know. I'm looking for that, so that's P, times the rate, which is 0.02, times the T, the time is 3. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find P. So to do that, I want to move these two numbers and bring them over to the other side of the equal sign. And since I'm multiplying P with 0.02 and 3, I want to do division. So I'm going to divide. I'm going to take 39 and divide it with 0.02 in my calculator, and then I'm going to also divide by 3 after I get that new number. So now P is going to be $650. So the work that I showed was at least I wrote it in my equation, or if you showed me that you're dividing 39 with 0.02 and dividing it with 3, then that could also be your work for number 2. I'm going to skip down to number 6. Here, again, we're using I equals PRT. That's part of showing your work, writing the formula. So you could do that for every question. We know that he deposited $200, so that $200 is his principal. So I is equal to 200 for the P times the R, the rate. Well, I don't know what the rate is because that's what I'm looking for, so that's going to be R. And I'm going to times it with the time. The time is 2 years. Now the I since I'm looking for R, I have to have the I here. I can't just have that as a variable. And I know that the income, the interest rate, well, the balance in the account is $203.60, which means that the interest rate, remember that the interest rate is that extra money that gets deposited into Jamal's savings account. So he already put in $200, which means that if I subtracted his current balance, $203.60, with $200, then the difference is $3.60. That $3.60 means it's the interest, the extra amount of money that he got, for putting his money into a savings account. So that's his interest. So the I here is going to be $3.60. Okay, so from here to find R, I'm going to move the 200 over, so divide 360 with 200, move the 2 over, and then whatever I get there, divide it again with the 2.